A new year and a new chapter in our book. And so, just to let you know that a couple of the things that I use, especially during this month, because we're going to back to basics, is going to be this thing called You. And these are both for sale out in the lobby. And the other one, which is very well loved, as you can see, is called the Science of Mind textbook. So, as we go forward in the Science of Mind, every week you can refer to these books. This is actually one of my favorite books to use because it explains a lot what this doesn't. And what I mean by that is you can read this and go, "What? What is Ernest talking about?" So that basically helps you translate. But so we here, right here, right now, have all come from different walks of life, all from different points of view, all from different dogmas. But yet somehow we all ended up here in this beautiful, beautiful studio, this beautiful togetherness, this spiritual community of saying, I want to know more. I want to know what is more for me and my special relationship with the God of my understanding. And so what happens is we go on this journey and we search and we create moral compasses and we create stories and we create all these interesting little things to tell us where we want to be on our spiritual journey. And what I love about Science of Mind is it gives us the freedom to do whatever we want to as far as looking. So if something doesn't resonate exactly, we can say, well, maybe I want to read a little bit of Buddhism, or maybe I want to read a little bit of Hinduism, or there's this, that, and everything. But what's wonderful is it all comes together, and we all know that there's one God, and that one thing that we all know is love. Many of us, when we go on a spiritual journey, we're looking for that communion. And I don't mean the wine and the bread. What I'm talking about is that communion of the essence of the spirit of that one life that's God's life, that's our life. And I understand many of us have different names for it. Like there's Abba and Yahweh and love, and I know each and every one of you probably have that particular name. I like the name Abba, which means Father. And it's one of the names that Jesus used in his journey. And so we're on this search, and there was this gentleman that I love to refer to, and his name was Viktor Frankl. Yes. And he wrote this wonderful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what it told was his personal story about his experience in a concentration camp and him being a psychologist in his career before he was in that camp. He said, why am I here? What is my experience? What am I to know? And at the end, when he was finally released, he was one of the survivors, he said to himself, I've been searching for meaning my entire life. And what I understand is it's the meaning that I give it. So what meaning are we giving to our lives? What are we allowing to define us? What are we allowing in? And what are we allowing to love us, through us, as us? So in Matthew 7 it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that. So what that means is whatever we are looking for, whatever we are wanting to invite into our life, the door is always open. It's always open because it's not conditional. So what is this thing that I'm going to talk about? This thing, what Ernest Holmes referred to, is basically the essence of God. in and through all things. And it's something that most of us know about from the Bible. And if you look at the Bible as an acronym, it's basic instructions before leaving Earth. So we read that, and we understand through all the stories that, okay, this is what is or has been expected of us. And what we understand in science of mind, there's no conditions, there's no limitations, there's nothing. And so what we do is we create our own stories. We create our own chapters. And one of the things that Ernest Holm told us, and as you can see, my book is very well loved. And this is called the Science of Mind textbook. And it is available, as this is too, out in the lobby after service if you feel called to equip yourself with one. And Ernest said this: educated for the demands of a different time and culture, we are called to be re-educated to use much more of ourselves in meeting the many new challenges that confront us. We have no choice then but to democratize greatness and utilize the whole continuum of human and divine potential. The Science of Mind says that this is not only possible, it is what is expected of us. Indeed, it is that for which we have been created. Infinite, knowing that it cannot contract, has coded the relative meaning ourselves for expansion into itself. For the first time in human history, we are required as a species to extend ourselves into radically new ways of being. The tasks that are now ours are the tasks of virtual creation. Compel the revolution in consciousness that tells us that we are part of the great unfolding of spirit in flesh. You know, we are part of that new thought. And often someone will say, well, what is new thought? And I said, well, it's the old thought new. Which is looking actually, in all honesty, it's looking at God in a different light. You know, we have that beautiful Old Testament God of conditions and demands, and then we have the New Testament where we have this man called Jesus the Christ who came and basically showed us that, hey, you know, the guy you read about in the Torah and in the Hebrew Bible, nah, that's not the real God. The real God is love and fun, and he wants the best for you and all the goodness, all the highest good. So for new thought, we are now thinking in a new way about how God works in our lives, through us, as us. So when we think about this thing, as Ernest called it, we think about it in our own personal way. As I said earlier, we all have a different name for it that is personal and loving to us. God, Spirit, Yahweh, Father, Mother, invisible essence. There are millions and zillions of names as there are people. As I said, it's all about the personal relationship that we have with that essence, with that energy. And so one of the things that Ernest created is in your program, actually, and it's called What We Believe. Now, I'm not going to go over those today, but I invite you to read those principles, to look at them, to see what it is that science of mind, formerly known as religious science, is about, what we believe. And so it is about that relationship. What do we believe? So religious, or let's say science of mind, is not really a religion, so to speak. It's more of a philosophy. It's a faith and it's a way of life. So when you believe a certain way, it is that way of where you conduct yourself. As I said earlier, you get a moral compass. You have certain things that you know to be true for yourself. But the biggest thing is that each and every one of us has the freedom to believe how we want to believe. So merely when we have faith traditions with, say, a textbook or a Bible or the Vedas or whatever it is, it's merely what they're doing is they're giving us a guidebook of how to live your life in the highest good. That's what they're there for. So you can look at the teachers, you can look at those that have gone before and written all these beautiful words and know that as we read them together, it's truly talking about the one love, that one God essence. However, with love, there always seems to be an opposite. And we humans tend to create another story around victimhood. We like to create that sidebar of, I'm not enough, and I am in bondage because I can't get out of whatever it is that I'm attached to. And this is my story that I have to continually tell. And what we understand in Science of Mind is, okay, if you want to hang on to that story, you can, but what's it doing for you? How's it supporting you? How is it creating a more positive, energetic life? You have a choice. We all have a choice. It's kind of like going to a movie. You sit down in a movie and you're going to watch this romance story and it's a horror film. And you say, wait a minute. I paid for the romance, not the horror film. And so you realize, you know what? I can get up and I can go to another movie. That's what our lives are like. You can say, no, I don't want this. This is what I want. And you can create that. You can just say no. No, not for me. I don't want to do this. That's not healthy. It doesn't support me and it doesn't serve me. Think about it. If there's something in your life that is a little bit scratchy, as I'm going to say, ask yourself, does it serve you? Does it support you? And does it make you feel safe? And if you can say one no to any of those, then maybe you need to reevaluate what's truly going on in your life. You know, we are partnered with this creative intelligence that wants us to have an amazing life. You know, it's like every second of every day, you know, we have a thought, and I know we do, and I know I have, where you say, you know what, this or something better. This or something better. But what's the better? How am I to know what the better is? Well, it's called patience, which your minister has like very little of. But I have learned in my journey that that is something that is it's a gift. Because in that hallway, as I call it, that dark hallway, where there's no windows and there's no doors to look out or get an escape route, is you have to, as I would phrase it as, you have to sit. You have to sit and be still and trust. You have to know that whatever is going on out here is all for the highest good. And yet we want to say, come on already, where's the window? Where's the door? And that essence of God inside of you says, no, you're not ready yet. Just be patient. But I want it now. I want it yesterday. And that essence says, no, you're not ready yet. And then once we release and we let go, and we say, okay, you win, or I win. Whatever am I supposed to experience, I will experience, knowing that it is for my highest good. You know, we have a objective and we have a subjective mind. And what that objective is conscious. And the subjective is that mind that sneaks up on us, as I call it. It's those thoughts that we think and then all of a sudden they come into fruition. I have to tell a story that's funny. Well, Charles and I, we've been moving into, our new home for the last few weeks. And so we've been going back and forth to Tempe, and we've been going to Scottsdale and different places. So one afternoon, we were tired, and I said, I've always wanted to go to that restaurant over there. Can we go? Because I know it's not in Tempe, or it's not in Tucson. He goes, sure. So we stopped. And he was telling me this story that, when his wife died of cancer, that she had a son, and they were close, and he was in the military when she died. And so he wasn't able to reach him. He had to go through the father in order to tell him that his wife had passed. And so one of the things that Charles always wanted to do was, I would guess to say it was closure. To be able to have that last conversation with her son and tell her about tell him how brave his mother was in the end. So we're sitting there, and one of the bonuses is we got to watch the last quarter of the Rose Bowl. So that was kind of fun. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he goes, oh my gosh, there's Nathan. And I said, what? He goes, there's Nathan. He's sitting at the table like two tables over. I said, okay. I said, what are you going to do about it? And he goes, I don't know. I said, do it. So he blurted out his name, Nathan. And he turned around. And my husband goes, I said, so he walked over, and of course he had this wonderful conversation. And he was able to tell him about his mother in the last few days. And it was really funny because when he got back to the table, he looked at me and he goes, did you do this? I go, moi? Me? No. But what I know in the science of mind, as we do, when there is something that needs to be said, it will be said. And so I've always held that somehow, some way, that he would have that conversation. But we don't script it. We just let it go. We let it be. And so he came back to the table, and of course he'd been crying. And I said, so how do you feel? He says, I feel like a ton of weight has been lifted off of me. And he said, I got my closure. He says, and there's a few things that I want to give, Nathan, before we leave. So he was able to exchange information. So now that can be done. So be careful about your thoughts. But that's what happens. And I'm sure all of you have experienced of when you've thought about somebody and they call or they text. You go, well, I was just thinking about them. The universe knows. And so when we think about those people, there's an energy that exists between us and them. Actually, there's a whole energy in this whole big, beautiful universe. And it's called love, and it's called connection. And that's what we are all infused with, is that connection. And so another one of those things that people have asked me about prayer. They'll say, you know, I've been praying about a certain situation and nothing's happening. What am I doing wrong? I said, what are you doing? You're doing right. Because you have that thought. This is what you are asking for. And some of us come from faith traditions where you have to do something in order for this essence that's within us to listen. The answer is always within the prayer. We have to listen to our hearts. But just so you know, the universe doesn't play favorites. So if your friend over here has been praying for something or wanting something and you see that they get it, you're like, what's up with that? How come they're getting what they want? Why am I not getting what I want? Patience. There is always an answer. And I've said this previously, is that our answer, this is what we have said. Okay, this is how it's going to be. This is what it's going to look like. And God, as we say, we plan, God laughs. And the essence says, no. This is what I want you to know. This is what I want you to experience so that you can have what I call AFGOs, another fine growth opportunity. So you can have that experience of growth, not only within your heart, but in your mind and that relationship with the Spirit, with God. It's all about conviction. When we ask, we need to be very, very, very clear. What is it that is happening right here and right now for you? When you believe, when you truly, truly, truly believe it is true, it will happen. And I have seen it over and over and over. And we pray it up and we say, yeah, this is what I want. This is what it looks like, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 minutes later we go, well, I don't know. Is that really what I want? And so the essence of God goes, okay, erase, erase, erase. You got to start over. You've got to start over. You got to start over and you've got to put more energy on it. And then you got to leave it alone. You know, in our 5 steps of treatment, we say, I release and I let it go. Yes, that's what we do. We release and we let it go. We don't handle it anymore. We don't micromanage it anymore. We allow it to be. We allow it to seed and grow. And so then what happens is we get to experience something wonderful, something that's called love. And yes, there might be a disappointment in how our prayers are answered, but they are always answered for our highest good. So when you're asking something, and as I said, be very specific, because sometimes we'll ask for something, and then I'll think, oh, dang, yes, that's what I wanted, but I forgot this part. And that is what we have to be very specific about. So if you don't want to sit there and just blurt it out, I encourage you to write it. Write it down like a recipe. This is what I experience. This is what I know. This is what I know to be true. And with true conviction. And then close the book and let it go. Don't question it. Don't ask. Because then you got to pray it all over again. So let it go. Let it be. So the road to freedom is truly not mysterious. It's here for the taking. It's here for the asking. It's here for us, through us. And we have that infinite mind. So that thing itself is working through us as us. So instead of calling it the thing, and it's funny, when I was growing up and I was learning about science of mind, and I know I'm talking among people that know this show, is the Addams Family. Remember Thing? So my little, 7, 8-year-old brain was thinking, the thing itself? What does that have to do with science of mind? But of course, as you mature and you go to foundations and you learn about all these things, you go, oh yeah, that's not talking about that. It's talking about God. It's talking about the essence, which is and through all things. So right now, what do you see for yourself? What is it that you are holding back on? What are you saying, tomorrow is another day, as Scarlett O'Hara said? It's no, tomorrow isn't another day. It's right here, it's right now. Right here, right now. So all we have to really do is learn how to trust. And when we learn how to trust, everything, the whole world opens up. So in closing, I want to read something to all of you from this thing called you. And it says here, you belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. There is something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountain. Some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose origin no man has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. This is your starting point. I'll read that again. This is your starting point for investigating the meaning of those impulses, longings, and desires which accompany you through life. You may accept that the source through which they come is real. You may accept that the universe is filled with a divine and infinite presence, perhaps the infinite of yourself. Not the infinite of your limited self, but the infinite of the divine self you must be. There must be a pattern of yourself in this invisible. The greatest minds of the ages have accepted that such a pattern exists. Socrates called it his spirit, Jesus his Father in heaven. Some ancient mystics called it Atman. Why don't you call it just you? Complete self. For surely this is what they have all meant. And so I ask that we turn within for just a moment. Father, Mother, God, thank you. Thank you for all that is and all that will be. Thank you for this beautiful community as we walk together on the spiritual journey in this new chapter, in this new book that we are all writing together. I thank you for all that is coming, all that is leaving, all that is for this highest good of this beautiful Center for Spiritual Living, Tucson. Thank you, God, for allowing me to be the spiritual leader here right now. And thank you, God, for all of the individuals that are here leading me, showing me that beautiful, beautiful God essence of love. So I know that we are moving forward. We're all moving to our highest good. And we each hold the pen to writing something amazing. Thank you, God. As I release, I let go. I know it to be so. As together we say, and so it is.